Hi all, Dr. Shweta here. I think if everybody's okay, we can start the.
Okay, Akam Sharma, we can start.
Hello,
Hello.
Hello.
can I start?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Ma'am, you can start the presentation. Shweta, I'm listening.
Hello. Yes, can I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mrs. X was 33 years old. She's a housewife, and Mr. Y is 38-year-old engineer by profession. They were married for 7 years. It was a non-consanguineous marriage. They presented with secondary infertility. Uh, uh, According to the menstrual history, she has having regular cycles, 4 days lasting for every 28 days, and normal flow, and there was no dysmenorrhea, and she attained menarche at the age of 12 years. Coital history, there is history of intercourse 3 times per week. There is history of phimosis with circumcision in the husband. There is history of decreased libido as well, and there is a history of query ejaculatory dysfunction. Obstetric history, there was an abortion 6 months back. UPT was positive, but there was no scan done, and she had then spontaneous complete abortion. There is no history of any contraception used. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, sorry. Uh, sorry, the previous one, yes. So past history, there is query history of vaginal dilatation or hymenectomy. Patient is not sure. Husband, there is no significant history, or there is no any past history of any drug allergies for both of them. There is no habits like alcohol or tobacco chewing, nothing as such in the husband, and there is no family history of infertility in the both husband and wife families, and there is no history of recurrent abortions as well. Wife's mother, she attained menopause at the age of 53 years. Next slide. On examination, the wife, her BMI is 30.2. Breast and thyroid are normal. Husband's BMI is 22. The investigations of wife, all investigations are normal. The day 2 hormone levels, FSH is 15, LH is 12, AMH is 0.44, thyroid is 0.8, prolactin is 22. When ultrasound was done on day 2, the uterus was normal in size. Endometrial thickness was 3 mm. Right ovary, there were no enteral follicle count, and it was the volume was 3.23 cc. Left ovary, there was only one enteral follicle count, and 3.3 cc was the volume, and the cavity was normal. Husband, the semen analysis is three volume is 3 ml, count is 35 million, which is normal. Motility is also 42% normal. Progressive motility is 32%, that is also normal. Normal forms, it is only 2%. So this is less, which is a normal value is 4%. CBC, HbA1c, and serology are all normal. So this was the history and the examination. So the patient here is Mrs. X is presenting with the low ovarian reserve with male infertility as well as it is teratozospermia is there. So this is the diagnosis with low ovarian reserve with the teratozospermia in the husband.
Okay. So, what are you going to do for this patient?
So, ma'am, actually, because the ovarian reserve is very low, first of all, I would like to consult an andrologist for the husband, as his and also for wife, as the ovarian reserve is very low, so we can give her the
Why
options of like,
andrologist opinion for the husband?
because ma'am, the forms is 2% only. So just and she is there giving a history of like query some retrograde ejaculation or something, which is not very sure. So just
Retrograde
for the,
ejaculation.
they have given in the history
Okay.
query they have
Ejaculatory
written.
dysfunction.
Yeah, for that.
Okay.
So just an opinion for that. And the woman, she is having the low ovarian reserve, and also we would just like to counsel her uh, like for donor as well as taking consideration into her wishes. Like if she wishes to have her own eggs or donor, we'll give her both the options.
Okay.
And like if she is wanting her own, then we have to tell her the prognosis and the poor qualities of the and the chances of failure, and we can then go for like we can either go for some, like we can give her some androgens like the DHEAS for like 1 or 2 months just to improve her reserve, if and then we can start her with the NTAG regimen along with some like growth hormone adjuvants. We can start we will start her on HMG, and we'll add the growth hormones as well for the stimulation, and we will continue this HMG around 300 international units. We can start along with the growth hormone 4 international units, and we'll continue both depending on the growth of the follicles till the day of the trigger. And then NTAG can be started when the follicle is more than like it's more than 10 mm or 12 mm, or the estradiol levels are rising, then we can start the NTAG regimen as well.
Fine. You're talking in terms of IVF exes or self or donor, fine. But you know what? I am not affordable for IVF.
Okay.
So what next?
So if like they are not
Dr.
affordable.
Amandeep is also one of the person, correct? Dr. Akanksha and Dr. Amandeep.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
both of you can answer. One of you. Affordability is a question.
Sorry. Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So affordability is a question in my case. So IVF, I'm not affordable. Imagine I'm the patient. Okay.
Okay,
So what other option is available for me?
If then we can go for IUI, but then the chances are very less. Then we can tell.
Basically, if at all, they are not affordable for IVF, you can't just say, no, that is the only thing. You can also give them a IUI. But in this case, you will also counsel saying a normal success rate of IUI is around say 15-20%, but in your case, it is very less. Okay.
Yes.
Considering the husband parameters are decent enough, we can give you a trial of 1 or 2 cycles of IUI following a tube testing. If it works, well and good. If it doesn't work, we have no other option. So that we should never forget our basics. IUI can also be given, but most logically speaking, yes, IVF is the treatment of choice. Okay, but in a clinical practice, when we go, it is all types of patients are available, correct? So we can always talk about IVF first thing. Good. Now, coming to IVF, you rightly said we'll give them a self-cycle IVF or a donor cycle. Self-cycle, what you can do, we call it a pooling cycles. We can collect the oocytes and make it into embryos. If it is not like sufficient numbers, then we can do subsequent 2 or 3 pooling cycles of IVF followed by embryo transfer. Good. Now, the adjuvants, what and all adjuvants can be given?
Ma'am, one, we can give her a DHEAS or the testosterone before we start, and then we can also add the growth hormones for her, like while we are giving the stimulation, we can add that as well.
Sorry, I was not there. Tell me again.
Ma'am, we can give her this adjuvants. We can give her the DHEAS or the testosterone before we start the IVF, and then we can add
for how many months or days?
And DHEAS we can give for 2 months before we start the cycle, and testosterone actually it has to be given like 15 days before we start the cycle, because it is acting in the late like intermediate follicular phase, and the DHEAS is acting more in the early follicular phase. So we are giving for 2 months, and this we can give for like the sachet is coming for the testosterone.
No, when we're talking about DHEAS, let's talk about one by one. Okay, when we are talking about DHEAS, what are you going to tell the patient? Okay, I'm going to give you a DHEAS, so your follicle count is going to improve. So what next?
Voice is breaking.
How do you give the patient before you start DHEAS? DHEA. What do you counsel the patient before you start your DHEA?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, we're going to tell them that it might that it increases the chances of like the reserve might improve. but like 1 or 2 follicles might increase. If it is less than 1 or 2 follicles might increase, but still the chances are like the
Yeah.
less only. So like,
Correct. That is what you're going to say to them. Basically, it is going to improve maximum 1 or 2 follicles, not like, 3, 4 follicles become like 10
Yeah,
follicles. No,
ma'am.
because that is what, we should
Yes.
tell that first thing. Second thing, the quality of the oocytes, whatever we get, the quality will be better. These two things you're going to counsel, because what happens usually after 2 months of DHA, you come and they say, okay, there was 3 AFC, now it is 4 AFC. It is not improved. Okay. So that thing should be counseled.
This one, Zima. She gave you Zenith.
Okay, and next, testosterone in the late luteal phase. Okay, what are the exact reasons for a POR, poor responder? Why it happens?
ma'am, the classification, that Poisson classification and the Bologna, or hello?
No, that is who is POR.
Okay, okay.
Why does it? What are the risk factors?
Risk factors, ma'am. The risk factors, one is the age more than 35. Then there could be other risk factors like endometriosis, or some like they might be having some pathology, or the genetic cause, like the mother has attained early menopause, or the POF, history of POF in the family members, or there could be uh, and the poor ovarian reserve would be
You're gonna talk it in
the
factors.
surgery, or in the surgery, like some surgeries has been done, like drilling or any other ovarian surgeries has been done in the past.
You're gonna categorize it, isn't it? One, you're gonna say either because of the ovarian aging, genetic causes, or acquired risk factors. Whatever you said, everything belongs to the acquired risk factors. Any genetic mutations, okay, all those things, uterine artery embolizations, any surgeries on the ovaries,
Yes, yes,
or any
yes.
tubal surgeries. Can tubal surgeries affect the ovarian this one?
Yes, yes, ma'am, it can. Blood
Because
supply might
the
get,
blood vessels during
yeah,
the
that
surgery
might get
can,
impaired.
yeah. So all those things are important. Then what are the predictors for a poor responder? What and all you're going to check? How do you know? Only AFC you're going to check, and then you're going to say it is a
No,
poor responder, poor ovarian reserve? What
no,
are
ma'am.
the
There are like
predictors?
first is one is the AMH, like less 1.5, less than 0.1. Normal is like 1.5 to 1. Like depending on the age, so it is less than around 1.1, so it is less poor ovarian reserve. Then we can do the FSH levels. If it is more than 11, 10 or 11 on day 2, then we can say that she's having a poor ovarian reserve. Or then we can see the like the ovarian volume. If it is less than 3 centimeter cube, then also we can say that she's having poor ovarian, and the antral follicle count 5 to 7 less than that, then it is known as the poor ovarian reserve. Even the inhibin we can measure less than 53 around. So if it is less than 53, then it is a poor ovarian reserve. And ovarian volume. These are the things that by these things we'll be seeing the ovarian reserve.
Oh, okay. So basically, those are the ones, correct? Now, what else is remaining? It's like
And age also more than like 40 years and
that's the
4
first one, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What are the adjuvants you're gonna use in this cases? How are you gonna classify when, where, what you're gonna give?
Okay, ma'am. First of all, we'll start her on the
Fine.
folic.
Talk about Bologna criteria before the adjuvant.
Yes, ma'am. The Bologna criteria, there are like if there is low age is more than 40, or there is low ovarian reserve, like AFC is less than 7, or the AMH is less than 1.1, or she has had 2 stimulations before and they are poor responding, like so then out of these 3, if any 2 criteria are there, then it is like said to have low ovarian reserve. And also like if there have been 2 stimulations in the past with poor response, then also that is said to be like poor ovarian reserve, poor responders.
Okay, done. So that is a thing. So what are the interventions? What changes you're going to do? What are the adjuvant therapies?
Yes, ma'am.
What and
First,
all are there?
sorry.
Tell me about the adjuvants.
Okay, ma'am, we'll start her like Folmec and aspirin. When we are starting the stimulation, we start all these things. And we also will, like along with HMG, when we start the HMG, so we'll get both LH also, because here she is having low ovarian reserve. So we'll give LH from the starting, and we will add this growth hormone as well for
You add growth
international.
hormone to everybody?
No, ma'am, because her AFC is very
What
low.
is the growth hormone cost? What is the
Yeah,
cost of growth
it's very
hormone?
expensive. Yeah, it's very
Then
expensive.
can everybody afford it?
No, ma'am.
So growth hormone is not the first thing.
Okay, so
It
we can give
can be
HMG.
used. Yes, can be used. But growth hormone is not the first thing because it's very expensive, isn't it?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So, yes, you rightly said DHEA for a prior 2 to 3 months. Then you assess the AFC and you start off, correct? Then probably for the synchronization, why do you give testosterone in the second half of the cycle in the previous month? What happens in POR?
Ma'am, in PO, we want all the most of the follicles are not in the same cohort, like not the same time of the cycle. So because she's already having poor ovarian reserve, we want that most of the follicles would be of the same size, so that when we are stimulating them, so most of them can be recruited at the time of ovum pickup.
Correct. So basically in a poor responder, what happens? There is early follicular recruitment. There's a follicle which asynchronous growth of the follicles will be there. So in these cases, because we want a synchronous cohort, we are going to give something in the previous cycle or in the previous luteal phase of the cycle. So previous cycle, what you can give a OCP pre-treatment for the synchronous growth. Or in the second half of the cycle, you can also give your testosterones or your estrogen pre-treatment can be given. Now, during the cycle, if possible, we can give them what not supplements during the cycle. As you said, growth hormone.
Ma'am, aspirin will give.
Aspirin.
Then we can give like coenzymes.
Pyridostigmine.
Is it L-arginine can be given?
Yeah, L-arginine.
Correct. Aromatase inhibitors?
Yes.
Aromatase inhibitors.
Letrozole can be given. Correct. So all these things can be given. But which one has a proven benefit? What does your study says?
Ma'am, the studies like for growth hormone, they're saying that a lot of data is still not there. It adds to the benefit, but still not sure in which type of poor responder it should be given. And about the aspirin, yes, they definitely improve the.
Why aspirin?
Ma'am, they improve the vascularity, the thickness, as well as
the main thing is they improve the vascularity so that the blood flows are good, which is especially low in case of a poor responder. Plus, drug delivery is better. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So these the reasons why we give aspirin. And L-arginine, what does the study says?
They also increase the vascularity, and
study says not beneficial. Okay. You can give, no proven benefits. L-arginine can be given, they say. They don't substantiate. Only for the growth hormone and aspirin is what they say, yes, can be given. Okay. And what are the changes? What protocol you're going to use? IVF? You plan for IVF. Now, what are you going to do in IVF?
Ma'am, we can give the ANTAG as well as we can give the agonist like the luteal phase and all, but ANTAG, the dose is like less, and so that is what is preferred.
Which is the best cycle? Which is best in case of a POR?
Ma'am, actually, according to the studies, both can be
long protocols. Yeah, agonist. You don't say long protocols. It is an agonist protocols. Yeah, so that has a better outcome. Okay. But again, many studies says there's no difference between an agonist protocol and an ANTAG protocol. But preferably a long protocol. is the one which has a proven benefits. Why?
Okay. Because they are the long protocol, they are suppressing the and the FSH which is rising beforehand in the previous, that is suppressed. So the most of the follicles like in the same phase of the cycles that they are growing and
Correct. It is under the doctor's control, synchronous cohort, and in the last, if at all there's any 1 or 2 follicles growing ahead also, we can wait for the other follicles also to catch up, correct? It is a convenient protocol. So that is
Okay.
one of the reasons long protocol is preferred. Plus it is seen, okay, some studies says not much difference, but again, the quality of the oocytes is better in long protocol. Okay, so long
Okay.
protocols are the preferred one, but we usually don't do long protocol. Why?
Because the
I mean,
dose
most
is
of us
taking so
do.
much of time and the dose is like,
Okay, but
Not patient friendly.
hello?
some people, correct. It's not patient friendly, correct? Then
Yes.
because it
Cost
is long
effective.
duration treatment,
Cost.
yes. No, cost is almost the same because anti we are not giving here, no, the cost is saved. But this is one long duration of treatment. Two, you're suppressing the internal hormones and the follicles are growing. So the dose of gonadotropin requirement is high.
Yes.
Okay, these are the reasons why we commonly don't prefer. Okay, but again, when done, this gives a very good results. I'm in favor of this. Okay, what other agonist protocols do you people know?
Ma'am, the luteal phase protocol, when we are giving in the like the 21 day, we start from the previous cycle and then we continue like when and then the that the gonadotropins has to be started from the second day of the next cycle till the day of trigger, or we can reduce the dose of the agonist once we start the gonadotropins.
What agonist are you gonna do? Which agonist you're gonna give? How we are gonna give?
Ma'am, lupride can be given. Lupride.
Lupride, how can, I mean, Lupride can be given anyways. You need to be more specific. You're gonna give a depot preparation, you're gonna give a daily dosage of injections.
Daily doses. Daily doses.
Why can't you give a depot?
Depot is, ma'am, preferred in those like endometriosis and all, like for 2-3 months. Then because longer suppression and longer recovery, it takes like 60 to 90 days for the pituitary to recover, and here it is little like daily doses. It is little less, so we'll prefer a daily dose as compared to the depot.
How much is the daily dose?
The dose is 2
You're gonna
mg.
continue the same dose throughout day 21 to the
0.6.
HCG trigger, or are you gonna decrease the dosage?
Ma'am, we'll continue the same doses till the first day of the next cycle, and then we decrease the dose. The next cycle we can decrease the dose.
Is it necessary if you have to decrease the dose?
So it is not necessary, but if we decrease the dose, then sometimes like let suppression will be less. Like pituitary suppression is more if we continue the same dose, and if we suppress, then the pituitary suppression might be little less, and then the gonadotropins requirement will be little less, maybe.
Correct, correct. Next. But some people do continue the same dosage also. That is also not wrong. Okay, because they don't want a premature LH surge. That is the reason some people are, skeptical to reduce the dosage. But most of the times you can reduce the dosage and continue forward. Nothing is going to happen. Okay. And
Yes.
some people do practice giving, even though there's no adenomyosis or endometriosis, some people do practice giving a depot preparation on a day 21 and, start off your stimulation from day 2 of the next cycle can be given. Okay, but most of the times the only thing is when you give a depot preparation, you cannot predict when you're going to get your periods, correct?
Yes,
So at that point of time, they're going to overlap it with OCPs.
yes.
Okay, day 5 to day 25, they're going to give OCPs. On day 21, they're going to give a depot. So after your day 25, anyways, you're going to get a withdrawal. So from that withdrawal, you can start off with your stimulation. That also can be done. Okay. So
Okay.
probably different doctors practice different things, but all these things can be done. So apart from the long protocol, what other agonist protocols can be done for POR?
Ma'am, the stop protocol, when the like the menses, when suppose we start giving from the day 21 of the previous cycle, and the when menses start, then we can stop it. The GnRH agonist, or we can continue little more into the early follicular days, like 5 to 7 days. We can continue into the early follicular phase, and then we can stop it.
What are the protocols?
Ma'am, we can start from a very low dose from the very beginning, like 0.1 mg only. We can start. Normally, they're giving like
Name of the
0.5.
protocols you'll have to tell me, isn't it? Not the dosage. What are the names of the protocols? How many agonist protocols are there?
Ma'am, the stop protocol is there, luteal phase, long agonist protocol, the luteal phase 1, then the follicular phase 1, then the agonist protocol.
What
Sorry,
agonist
stop
protocol?
protocol. Stop
You told
protocol
all
is
that.
there.
You told already told.
And then microdose, I think microdose.
Microflare protocol,
Yes.
microdose protocol, flare protocols, short
Flare,
flare
flare.
protocol. Yeah, all those things are there, isn't it?
Yes.
Anybody knows all these protocols? Is a pure class done?
Ma'am, we have a long protocol. The long protocol is divided into follicular long protocol, where we start from the second day of the previous menstrual cycle, continue it till the day of the trigger in the cycle of stimulation. Then we have the long luteal phase protocol, where we start from the 21st day of the previous cycle. And then in the long protocol, we have the depot protocol. So these are three agonist long protocols.
Ultra long protocol.
Then we have the stop protocols, where we start from the, which is a menstrual cessation protocol, where we start from the 21st day of the previous cycle and we stop it on the day of the menses. And the other is the early follicular cessation, where we start from the 21st day of the previous cycle and stop it on the 6th day of stimulation. And then we have the short protocols, in which we have we start ultra short protocol. We give it only for 3 days, starting from day 2 of stimulation, day 2, 3, day 3, day 4. And the other short, this is the ultra short protocol. The other short protocol is we give from day 2 till the day of the trigger. And then we have the microdose flare protocol, where we start 40 micrograms BD dosage from day 2 till the day of trigger.
What is the pre-requirement in the microdose flare protocol? OCP is mandatory, isn't it, in the previous cycle?
Yes,
That whenever you say microdose flare protocol, never forget a OCP pre-treatment in the previous cycle. And what is the advantage of all these flare protocols, short protocols, as compared to a regular ANTAC protocol?
Ma'am, the initial FSH LH levels, they will help in the recruitment of more number of follicles. Initial flare effect will be there, where more FSH LH will be there in the early part of the cycle.
Correct. So when you give an ANTAG, it directly causes suppression of the pituitary, correct? So when you give an agonist, it's always a flare followed by a suppression. So the initial flare effect is going to help us recruit more number of follicles. Okay. And what else? Now, recently there's one more, this one which has come, not recently exactly, it's an old one, regarding the treatment, how to proceed forward in case of poor responders. Apart from Bologna criteria, what is the other one? Criteria which has come up?
Poisson.
Correct. What exactly is that?
Patient-oriented strategy.
You can talk about that.
There are 4 groups actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the first group, if the age is like in the first group, the age is also less, and there is no the ovarian reserve is also normal. Age is less than 40, ovarian reserve is normal. In the second one, the second group, the age is more, but the ovarian reserve is normal. The third group, like age is less, but the ovarian reserve is less, and the fourth is like both are less. So these are the 4 groups.
Okay. And you know how to proceed forward with it? Can somebody elaborate on that? What is the concept of hypo responders and poor responders? Are both same or are both different?
No, both are different, ma'am. Poor responders are like less AFC are there, then a less number of eggs. Hypo responders like AFC is more and still the eggs are less.
Why does it happen?
Maybe the hyporesponder, it could be like due to the stimulation, like what stimulation we are giving, or there is some, we are wrong in checking the baseline or AFC or like that. So we have to just go and check the our ovarian reserve again, and then we have to check a stimulation protocol as well, just as to see like
hyposensitivity to the FSH.
Well,
Receptor,
so basically,
the
I'm
receptor
expecting terminology
polymorphism.
there. Yes.
Receptor polymorphism.
Correct. That is the word which I was expecting.
Yes,
Genetic
receptor
polymorphisms or receptor polymorphisms. Which receptor polymorphisms it is usually?
It is
FSH
FSH receptor.
FSH receptors and E2 receptors also. Okay, so probably in these cases, what are we going to do?
Dose of gonadotropins.
Yes, we're going to start with the first thing. Most of the times we send it for genetic gene polymorphism receptor study, and depending upon that, they give us a solution. Okay, if at all we are not sending for that, then what is the other option we're going to do? We're going to start off with a little higher doses of FSH and add LH in the start. Because in a young adult, we usually don't add LH, isn't it? We usually start off with only FSH dosage. So in these cases, when you add a LH, it is usually better. Okay. So next, that is about polymorphism, hypohydrobonders. What else is there? What is Shanghai protocol?
Yeah,
Shanghai protocol, double stimulation protocols.
Double stimulation protocol.
We are stimulating both in the follicular as well as in the luteal phase and we are doing twice ovum pickup in the same cycle. This is especially done for cancer patients where like patient is to go for chemotherapy or also in older patients.
In order to preserve their fertility.
Yeah, fertility preservation, especially in cancer patients, not especially because they have short duration time. So that is one of the reasons. So in out of the question, but in all these cancer patients, when we are doing this all stimulations and all, E2 is going to raise, isn't it? So we don't want the E2 raise in such patients. So what is the extra medicine we are going to add to prevent the increase in E2 levels?
Letrozole.
You're not supposed to say letrozole. You're going to say aromatase inhibitor. Correct? Yes, that is what we are going to do about that. And what else are we going to talk about in this one? Anything we've missed out?
Ma'am, in the case that we discussed, both our FSH and LH are high. And our AFC is only 1 in one of the ovaries. So ideally, such kind of a patient should be not...
AFC is 1 now. No, what is AFC? When you talk about AFC, do you talk about in one ovary or both the ovaries?
Both the ovaries.
Correct.
So the follicular count in the right ovary was 1 and the other one had none. So in such a patient, the one that we discussed, will we not directly go, and AMH being 0.4, FSH being 15, will we not directly go for oocyte donation?
But is everybody ready for oocyte donation? Donor programs? Is everybody ready? Don't mind me saying, especially all this particular category of patients, especially the Muslims and some caste in Hindus, they are not ready for donor programs. Whatever happens, they want the self. So in such patients, what are you going to do? There's only one follicle.
Okay, so that
basically
same follicle.
One follicle. Yeah, one follicle is there. Okay, very low. Correct. There are few other protocols which we didn't talk about. Yeah, tell me. There are very few follicles. Okay, like AFC is 1 or 2 or maximum 3. So in such patients, what happens is we are going to do pooling cycles. Correct? What is pooling cycles? We're going to do the egg retrieval month on month, collect a good number of batch of embryos, and then once we're going to do the transfer. Correct? That's called embryo pooling. Now, in such patients, what are the other cheaper options available?
Modified natural cycle, IVF.
Correct. Modified natural cycle IVF is what we're going to counsel them, especially all this one follicle, 2 follicles. You're going to monitor the follicle and then do. What is the other protocol which we're going to do if not modified natural?
Natural cycle IVF.
Mild stimulation. Who has heard about it?
Mild stimulation.
What is that? What is that?
We give chromosin. Sorry, we give letrose as well as the gonadotropins.
And oral
letrose. Are you going to give letrose? What is the thing about letrose? Are you going to give CC? What is the main ideology of giving letrose? Letrose has 2 things, correct? But usually when we give letrose, what is the thing what we are expecting?
Monofollicular development.
Growth.
Single follicular development.
Yeah. So letrose is usually given for 2 things. 1 is monofollicular growth. 2, it is given to reduce the E2 levels, which causes negative feedback effect on the pituitary, correct? To suppress the FSH-LH. Here, we are going to give mostly the CC HMG protocols. Can somebody elaborate on that?
Usually the cycle is started with day 2 cc 100 mg.
Mm-hmm.
HMG is added day 4 or something like that, 50 mg.
Sorry, your voice is breaking up. Who is talking?
Dr. Soumya, ma'am.
Tell me, dear. CCHMG protocol.
100 mg is given from day 2, and after some time, maybe by day 4 or something, HMG 100 mg is 150 is added usually, and the cycle is monitored. The idea is to reduce the cost, reduce the side effects, take some follicles out of it, and maybe to reduce the cost.
In this cycle, are you going to add an antagonist or none?
Usually,
None.
will be required to keep the LH at a check so that the oocyte quality is maintained.
There's nothing like none. We have to give antag, isn't it?
Antag is needed.
Antag is needed.
Continue CC for more than 5 days, then do not give it, ma'am.
If CC is
But in this protocol, it is 5 days CC, not a continuous CC.
long, then it will not be needed. But if CC is stopped by 5th day, after 5 doses, antag will be needed to prevent premature LH surge, which can reduce the oocyte quality.
Yeah, but the mild stimulation protocol is there's no ifs and all. It is only CC day 2 to day 6, and depending upon your this one, we are going to directly start off with HMG from your day 8 of your cycle. Dosages mostly it is 150 IU, and you're going to monitor the cycle through ultrasounds. What is the criteria for adding antag?
Lead follicles
More than 12,
at least, and E2 levels around
14.
50 to 400.
E2 400 to 600, lead follicle 10 to 12 at around 12 size.
14 lead follicle 14 mm, and this one is more than 400. This is what the textbook says. Some people change it to their own practice. It can be either 300 or 350 or 400 or 12 mm to 14 mm, not more than that. Okay, so probably this is what we are going to do. Then what other things are there? Probably that is all, I guess. Anybody has any doubts in this? Can an antag given in luteal phase of previous cycle help?
Protocol is there wherein we give 3 mg in the luteal phase of the previous cycle.
For
What it does?
For synchronization of the follicles.
Yeah, synchronization of the follicles. Can E2 be given? Estradiol?
Also can be.
Yes, it can be given.
Yes.
For
How much? What is
synchronization.
the dosage? What is the duration?
Usually it is started from the late luteal phase, something like day 21, and 202 is the dose per day. 2 mg 202 is given till the period starts.
4 mg daily till the period starts. Correct. Till the day 2 of your cycle. Basically, again, it is synchronization of the follicles. How is testosterone given?
We didn't get you, ma'am.
Testosterone?
Testosterone gel can be given. This is mainly to increase the
Follicular recruitment.
Growth, for follicular growth.
Given as 2 puffs per
Recruitment
day.
in the late luteal phase, isn't it?
12.5 milligram per day from day 15 in the preceding cycle. So there is a 50 milligram sachet which is coming, so 1/4 is given.
Oh, okay. Done. And somebody wanted to ask me something.
Ma'am, in this patient, she being a poor ovarian reserve patient, she has a LH high. So when we stimulate her, LH is already 12. Is there any role of HMG? We should be not should we start with the recombinant FSH?
See, again, it depends. Probably, if at all you're starting in the same cycle, if the LH is high, what do you counsel the patient? So preferably, I would say, please don't start anything. Okay, probably in the next subsequent cycles we can do. Okay, you can give a OCP pre-treatment in this patient and then reduce your FSH-LH levels, and then you can start off treatment is one option. Or if you want to go ahead in the same cycle, you'll have to counsel the patient saying ki she's already a POR. 2, her hormones are high. So the quality of the oocytes outcome can not be very favorable. Let's try, can be done. Or you can give a antagonist, antag, 1 dose of antag, okay, on your day 2, and on day 4 onwards, you can start off with your stimulation. There are 3
Which should
options.
be the preferred gonadotropin in this case?
Preferred gonadotropin, I would say HMG only. Even though the LH is high, you give an antag on day 2 of the cycle, give 2 days gap, and then on day 4 onwards, you start off with HMG, you have a better outcome. When you add LH in this POR cases, you have a good oocyte yield. But again, considering it is just 33 years, if you start off with only plain FSH also, nobody is going to question you.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So, and she's going to come back to you and say, I'm already my AMH is 0.4. So what exactly is my outcome prediction? How long can I wait? Am I menopausal?
Nothing to do with menopause, but it has got more things to do with response for stimulation and success rate for IVF.
Can I wait for another 6 months? Does my
Ma'am, the
AMH improve?
ovarian aging is happening, so it will be difficult for her to retrieve the follicles. Whatever is left will be like, because ovarian aging is, although her age is less, but ovarian.
It's better
The
not.
periods are regular. Do you mean say I cannot conceive naturally? Can I try to conceive
No,
naturally for the
yeah,
next 3
ma'am,
months?
100% we can't say that you can't conceive. Still, like in POF also, like 10%, 1% patient they conceive. So we cannot always say that you can't conceive, but yes, the chances are very less.
Correct. So that is what you're going to say. Never say no. You can conceive, but the instance is very, very low. That doesn't mean you have to wait till you conceive naturally. Better to start off some treatment. Your AMH is 0.4 at this point of time. It is what is the duration of predictability for this AMH? 0.4? For how long is it 0.4? Am I audible? How long is, what is the predictivity? No, I'm not getting the word. For how long will the AMH be the
Sensitivity and
same?
specificity, ma'am.
No. What
Months,
is the predictability? Duration?
For how many
AMH.
months?
For how many months?
I think 3 months. I'm not sure.
Studies say it is 1 year. But then again, it is what the study says. We have to think. We have to wait and watch. This is at this point of time your AMH this. It can reduce immediately, or it can be the same for some more duration. But usually one AMH value predictability is 12 months is what they say. Few studies. Okay. And specificity, which is the best predictor for your
The response.
AFC and AMH is like this same only. AFC and AMH.
Age and age.
age, AFC,
It's the
AMH.
age.
3 things: age, AFC, AMH. But again, age, we have various other genetic reasons also. So AFC and AMH will be the
Efficient. AFC and AMH are equally efficient, then comes the age. But the best predictor is the response. Response is the best predictor.
yeah. Any more doubts? Anything we left out? If nothing much, then probably shall we end the class? Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good, Dr. Akanksha, is it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, doctors. I'll end the session.